Oh, this one is automatically recording.
And keep going. So thanks for coming in. Once again, I think most of you guys know me, but Jeff Vaudrey and Elizabeth Vaudrey, the owners of Tipplers Brews and Wine. And tonight we're going to be covering the Digression Rose from the wonderful Boise Wines brings that in, and Sarah Brewer is with Boise and is going to talk a little more detail tonight. And anyway, I really like this wine, and the reason I chose this wine is this is rosé season, and this bottle is so striking. People come in and they often ask me, well, is it all about the bottle, or is this worth drinking? And I actually probably have this conversation 7-8 times a week that this is really good quality Provence true rosé, just happens to be in this awesome flashy bottle. And so what caught my attention is just being, it's one of my showcase wines that I bring out this time of year, and that's why I wanted to feature it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed as much as I do as we go through the night tonight. So, you want to
go ahead and have people? Yep.
All right.
If you haven't already, go ahead and
pour yourself a glass so we can kind of work through it as.
Cheers, everybody.
Yep. Sláinte, everybody. So this is rosés, ideally chilled, roughly 45 degrees-ish area, whichever way you want to go, give or take on that.
Oh, there they are.
And so on this guy, rosés are just really refreshing, lovely wines that I like. A wine that it's one of those where it's a very pretty wine, but it doesn't mean that there's not anything going on with it. So I mean, there's a lot to assess in a nice rosé as well. So to me, this wine would be really nice pairing with some seafood dishes, which makes sense actually from where it is. But I won't steal Sarah's thunder. So I think it might make more sense right now to let Sarah go in, talk a little bit about the wine, and then we can talk about what we are getting from the wine, if you don't mind, Sarah.
No, not at all. Thank you, Jeff. So welcome everybody. Happy Cinco
Sarah.
or as we like to say, happy Cinco de Wino.
Nice.
But, drinking beer here. So the Digression is part of a group of wines that are called Secret Indulgence, that are part of the Boisé collection. Boisé is a company that was a fairly young company that was founded in 1961 by John Charles Boisé's parents, Claude and Claudine, starting in Burgundy. So we are huge landholders in Burgundy. We have holdings in the south of France, which is where this wine is from, and also 4 wineries in California. And so about 2.5 years ago, Jean Charles wanted to come up with a group of wines and wineries that was kind of outside of the box, that didn't really stand with the norm, that spoke to the regions where they were from, and the expression of the package and the wine itself really spoke about the name itself. And so Secret Indulgence, we don't have a freestanding winery. If you come to Napa, we can receive you at any of our California wineries to taste the wines. We have a secret house that sits on Highway 29, and there are 8 rooms, and each room represents one of these wines. What happens in the Secret Indulgence house stays in the Secret Indulgence house. So I can't tell you anything about the rooms or what happens there. You just have to come see us to find out. And Digression is, so we have wines within the Secret Indulgence portfolio that are from France and from California. Digression is one of the wines from France. And this is a Provence Rosé from Côte de Provence. And there are 4 main regions in Côte de Provence. We are from what I feel is one of the best. It's one of the highest elevations. It's 100% from the Montagne Sainte-Victoire, which literally translates to limestone mountain. There's 11 miles of a limestone mountain where these grapes come from and make this wonderful rosé. Provence was not always 100%, it wasn't as big a rosé area as it is. Today, 75% of all the wines made out of Provence are rosé. Only 15% are red and about 5% white. So we're all very fortunate that most of those wines produced are rosé. Perfect for this time of year, as Jeff was saying. They're light and bright and great with seafood. They're great with, we just did another pairing this afternoon for Taco Tuesday. If you can imagine, with tacos al pastor with a tomatillo salsa, that was a great pairing. Acidity in this wine will cut. So it's predominantly made from a grape called Grenache. It's about 80% Grenache and about 20% Syrah. Provence rosés have to be at least 40% Grenache to be classified from the Côte de Provence. And so if you look at the packaging, I know Elizabeth had the screen up at the beginning that showed
I can share that again.
the bottle. So the bottle and the whole premise behind the digression, each one of the wines within the Secret Indulgence portfolio speaks to a different passion or feeling. And so digression is kind of, why would we all be the same? Why not be a flamingo and a flock of pigeons is kind of the hashtag for this wine. The bottle itself is an old French whiskey bottle or spirits bottle, and that's where the inspiration came from, with the glass top. So I know some people, and the flamingo is just really, stand out and be different. The freedom to really step out of the box, because we felt like when we released this wine, 2016 was the first vintage. There's so many rosés out there. How do you stand out and be different? And so the idea was to step out of the box, stand up and be noticed, and be better than the rest. And so between the old whiskey bottle and the flamingo that always stands up straight, we felt like from a labeling standpoint that was the best expression for the digression. And don't digress, stand up and be out there. So it is a very small production Côte de Provence rosé, and we're really proud of it, and we're really happy that you guys have chosen it tonight to be part of this tasting. It, as Jeff said earlier, and I agree, it pairs well with great seafood. It's awesome with oysters on the half shell, but again, you could pair it with spicy food because it's got that amount of minerality and acidity that's going to drive through some of those richer flavors that you'll find in, per se, a taco, which I'm referring to because it is Cinco de Mayo. So.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I can see it with the sushi too, with sriracha and everything, with the fish and
yeah.
sushi. And
yeah, because you've got, even though it's got, because Grenache and Syrah on their own, when they're produced as red wines, are these really floral, kind of flowery varietals, particularly Grenache. Syrah is a little bit more earthy and in depth, but when you're pressing and getting the color from the skins and the richness from that, it's giving you these round, rich floral notes, but with great minerality and acidity, because of course they're going to pick the grapes a little less ripe for a rosé than they would per se for a red wine. So you've got those little higher acid notes in the wine that are going to drive it to be a great food wine. But it's also, rosé for me is what I like to call a porch wine.
Right.
It's great to sit on the porch and drink it.
Absolutely.
Or the backyard, right? Mason cups?
Yeah, backyard, porch.
We're doing it right.
Yeah. Any place I see, lots of you guys are
Deck
doing
wine
it.
for us.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah, with 3 of them are outside.
Actually, we've got, 3 outside.
Mhm.
Good for you
We
guys.
could have done ours outside
Yeah,
today.
might have to think about that for the future.
Mhm.
That's right.
But they, this part of France, which is in the southeast part of France, is, rosé really has grown to immense popularity in the last 5 years. It's been, a lot of people held off on it because of the emergence from California of a wine called Red Zinfandel, which is really just rosé wine made from the Zinfandel grape. And they traditionally made that wine early on in a sweeter style. So people steered away from rosé because it was sweeter. And there's still some rosés out there with a little bit more fruit to them, but they're traditionally the true rosés from France are that really lower sugars and higher minerality and acidity, which make them great food wines. But they've been producing wines in the southeast part of France for over 2,600 years with the ancient Greeks. So I think they finally have it right. What do you guys think?
I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys think? You liking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be great with a nice white fish, I think, like any kind of white flaky fish. I would really like that, I think.
Yeah.
Flounder.
Oh, flounder, yeah.
Flounder, yeah. Okay.
Grouper.
Grouper, great. A grouper piccata with a little bit of that citrus going on would be amazing. Yeah.
A
I'm
grilled,
not gonna lie,
grilled
it's not as
whitefish with
sweet as I
fruit
thought it would
sauce.
be. So when I saw it was a rosé this week, I was kind of like, it's like, is it gonna be like a really sweet wine? It's not. It's like, I like
No.
it.
No, I like the minerality of it a
And
lot.
to Sarah's point, in the last 4 years, what I've seen is a change from in 2016, when we did the first, where everyone was announcing, it's the summer of rosé. I went from answering, is it sweet, at least 10 to 20 times a week, to the evolution of the American wine drinker has really become so much more sophisticated that I probably answer that only twice a year now. And that's a huge, huge difference.
It's huge. I mean, the growth rate for rosé it's almost become a lifestyle. It's outside of being a wine these days. Rosé is a lifestyle.
Rosé all day.
Rosé all day. You got it. We have another saying in my company. It's boisé all day.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, you guys have the portfolio for it. We'll be doing more with Boisset. You guys have great wines.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is the Grenache grape, the grape itself, the skin of it is not as dark as, say, a Cab, whatever grape they use to make Cab? Is that why the pale color? How do we get the pale color?
So 98% of all red grapes, when they're pressed, the juice runs white.
Yes.
They're only, and I think they're more, but I know of five grapes that are grown, red grapes, that when you press them, red juice comes out. So the color is coming from the amount of time that the pressed juice comes in contact with the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Grenache is a thinner skin grape than Cabernet, but the color is coming from the amount of time that the juice itself spends in contact with the skins, and that's where the color comes from. And within the region, 20% of all of the production of rosé within one blending has to come from a process called saunier, where they're macerating or aging those skins and then pressing them again. So there are two ways. You can just put the juice on contact with the skins itself and let that color bleed out for however much time you want, or you can do the saunier method where you're blending back in the color. So it would be, if it had no skin contact at all, it would be a white wine.
Yeah. Well, it's a lovely color.
Yeah, and with that, you're getting, when you have that skin contact, because white wine, if you have a straight white wine, there's no tannin at all in white wine. You're going to get just a slight amount in rosé, which gives you that extra minerality and balance with the acidity, because there is a little bit of skin contact. So with that, you get a tiny amount of tannin, which you would not get in a Chardonnay or a Sauvignon Blanc or any straight white varietal, because there is no skin contact.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, excellent. And I'll tell you, and because this is in the southeastern France, largely coastal, to me, I'm getting in that minerality a little bit of salinity, kind of capping it up, giving it a little brightness on there. So, anyone else getting that? Where you get that?
Like saltiness?
Yeah, a little saltiness.
Yes. Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same. Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons it's so good with things like oysters on the half shell and that kind of a thing. You get a little saltiness to pep it up there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree, Jeff.
Thanks.
Any other questions about the wine, guys?
Now I want oysters.
Yeah.
I do too.
Same thing.
What
Yeah.
time? What time's dinner?
Yeah, right. Exactly. We'll go through all the pairing options until we're all so hungry.
Great. Did someone ask another question? I heard someone else.
Oh, that was me. I always mix up oysters and clams because I don't eat them very often, but that's when you do like that.
Right,
Yes.
yes, the big ones. Mhm.
Yeah, which is very different from turtles on a half shell. That's
And we're also having a mild cheese with crackers with it. Mhm.
yeah. I mean, you could do this. You can go with some. Which charcuterie can always use. Like every wine, you know what to go with that charcuterie. It's like what charcuterie?
It's always a good fall safe, right? Great red cheese and charcuterie, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a nice sourdough. Well, of course.
Of course.
It's
Nice
true.
sourdough with a touch of mustard.
Yeah,
Would be
yeah.
beautiful. I
That
mean,
would
that's all it takes sometimes. It's the simple things. So
Sure, absolutely. Anyone getting any particular kinds of fruit out of these notes on the wine?
Reminds me of peach.
What?
yeah, peach and melon. A lot of peach and melon.
Am I crazy? Are you not getting apple?
Wait, what?
Which
Say that
one?
again?
I feel like I'm getting apple. Like an apple kind of.
I can go with like a green apple, like on top of the melon kind of thing.
Jeff is swirling his glass.
I
and
swirled my wine on the
wine
table.
everywhere.
I recommend it as a furniture polish. It's excellent.
We all can't be sommeliers.
It's not crazy. I can definitely go there because of the tart bright notes.
Green apple, I could see.
Right. I would go with unripe strawberry, and then for the floral, maybe a strawberry blossom kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's to me on the finish that little bit of sweetness that you get is almost a watermelon sweetness to me. So it's that really light
I can see that.
sense of sugar without it being cloying or heavier at all. It's just that sweet bit of sweetness that you get in a really wonderful watermelon.
Yeah, I can get that. You definitely like almost when you're getting to the rind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But actually,
I wouldn't want to waste too much of this, but I think it would be good in cooking too. Like I make a lot of mussels, and I usually use beer as my base, but using a wine similar to this as the base with some garlic and spices, and of course, bring some as you're cooking with it. But I think that would be a pretty good addition to actually cook with the wine.
Yeah.
I think that's
really nice cooking wine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had a chef tell me once that it's just like anything else. When you cook with wine,
Right.
You want to cook with the best ingredients. And so if you cook with the wine you wouldn't drink,
Right.
it's not going to
Yeah.
impart the flavor to the food. So
I agree.
go the extra mile. If it's only a half, if it's half a bottle of wine, put half in the food and use the other half while you're cooking to drink. So,
All right.
but look for the flavors in the wine that you want to impart in your food.
Yes.
Perfect. Brian, you make a lot of mussels. Is that why the guns are out?
I did pop the sleeves earlier. Yeah, it was getting a little hot.
Pretty good.
So how would this be with my salmon as far as cooking?
Oh, I think it would be as
Oh,
as
yeah.
far how would you prepare it, or I
I
think it would be
I just take a piece of salmon and I put it in a piece of foil and I dot butter on top of it, maybe a little seasoning, and then I pour the wine over it. And I close up the foil and I just sort of let it all steam together.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Hey, if you have Pat, if you have some of that left over, feel free to walk it down to the store. Because that sounds
I
awesome.
was just going to say my answer to that is
Yeah.
what time is dinner?
Yeah.
Because you can have it, it's good hot, but it's even better cold because the
I
wine
bet
has been sitting in it a while.
Mhm.
So it's,
Throw
and
it
I
on
think
a
this
salad.
would be, I think this would
Yeah.
be really good with it.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the way this wine's produced is it's because it is all done in stainless steel, so it is a light bright wine, but it sees about 6 months on a fine on the lees. So that's where that little bit
Oh, really?
of richness comes that gives it that extra texture in the wine where a lot of rosés don't have.
Yeah.
It gives you that little that and the amount of 80% Grenache is quite a lot. We do in some vintages add a little Cinsault, which adds a little bit more floral into it. And for whatever reason, Laurent in this vintage decided he didn't need it, and I think the 18 is a beautiful representation of what we can do in the south of France and Provence. So
is there a sparkling version of this?
there is not for the Digression. We do actually under another label. We do make a sparkling rosé that's made from almost 100% Grenache sparkling.
Okay.
We do a line of wines called LVE, which is Legend Vineyard exclusive. It's a joint venture that we do with John Legend.
Right.
Oh, I know him.
We
I know
do,
that guy.
yeah, we do another Provence rosé that's made in a little different style than the Digression, but we also do the sparkling version, which is almost 100% Grenache, and it's a very low alcohol sparkling wine. So,
Okay.
but to
So
this
Jeff,
day,
I was like, I mean, this
we
is like
don't-
almost
yeah.
like the red, the rosé, or not the rosé, but the Louis Perrier, the pink one that you have.
Yeah, the fruit rosé.
Yeah, it's a little similar, but this is better. But
So this makes me want to have a slice of key lime pie because it makes me think tropical
Huh,
because of it's so tart and bright.
it is tart.
Actually, by the way, and one of the things I like about rosé, because they do have that extra complexity, you know, during this time that we had the discussion, the wine has changed in my glass, and the herbal side is starting to come out. I mean, there's a lot of nice herbal complexity on this guy as well. A bit of kind of a lavender, touch of sage, just a wild herb kind of thing happening, which is common with Provence. It's one of those extra things. It's not just that one note. This is nice.
Mhm.
I mean, I knew it, but you know,
Mint,
if I do say so myself.
lavender.
Lavender, excellent. Yeah,
You just,
I know. Yeah.
so
my favorite, after you pointed out, Jeff, is the saltiness. It's like now that it sits on your tongue, it's like you don't realize it until I didn't realize it until you said it, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, some of the great French wines that for seafood are wonderful in that they include that, because like a muscadet is also has that briny quality to it, which is interesting because this is from the southeast and muscadet is from the northwest, but they're both near the coast. But yeah, they each include, and it's a white wine, but it includes that brininess, and it makes it such an amazing pairing for seafood.
Yeah.
I think it's always amazing how the environment around where the grapes are grown somehow managed to find their way into the bottle. You know, when you talk sometimes about Napa Cabernet and you find eucalyptus or that herbaceousness, and the eucalyptus has to do with the trees that are planted there in a lot of ways. But when you get on the coast like this, like Jeff was saying, you do get a lot of that salinity, and you also get, because you're that close to the coast, you have those limestone soils that give you that additional minerality and add to that salinity into the production through the grapevines, which is it's a great note to add into those coastal wines that are great with seafood.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah.
Say something. Are you drinking?
And this is a good representation of one of my favorite things about wine, is that wine tells a story, and that we can pop something open. We didn't have to spend $350 a bottle, and it's telling a story, it's speaking to the region. The other side of it, I guess, is something that my preferred wines at this point in my wine drinking odyssey is that I like wines that still speak of the land from which they come from. And it's not that I never enjoy them, but I don't enjoy as much the wines that are all about grape and barrel. When you just overwhelm any terroir with the barrel presence, it's just not as much fun for me. I want to enjoy something of the area.
How'd you do that?
What happened?
what did you say?
No.
They were watching one of the
Oh, okay.
But no, yeah, instead of throwing in a barrel, or like, because we did have one of the wines, was it a week or 2 weeks ago? It was like they're put in Pappy barrels, and
Right.
so yeah, it's like I agree. It's like you're tasting the wine. There's not a aging process that you're getting some infusion of another source.
Right. Yeah, and that
Because
was
this is a stainless steel, right? It's like,
Yeah, this was stainless.
Yeah, this is all stainless, so you're going to, and the French are really, really good about that. I cannot
The
think
French make good wine?
really good about, they're really good about
Like, they didn't
their law all the way through to the end product.
Yeah, but I was
I know.
using anything.
My favorite
Just
brand.
clarifying on that note.
Jose, ask a question. Butt in there. Speak up.
Does anybody else have any more questions for me?
Sarah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Sarah.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff and Elizabeth. It was
Cheers.
a pleasure.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Cheers. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Rosé all day.
That's
We'll
right.
look forward to the next
Jose
one.
all day. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy your outdoors rosé. Cheers.
Yeah.
See you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So Sarah's going to sign off. We can all keep talking if you prefer, or you can sign off anytime you'd like to. So we are going to cover next week's wine as it starts to wind down.
Do you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, let's
that?
put it up there. So next
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go ahead and
next week's wine, if they choose to send it to me, since they didn't send it to me this week, and I had to get is the Turley Juvenile Zinfandel. So,
Oh, and you got the food pairings. Awesome.
yeah, right. Well, you know, we listen. You know, or Elizabeth.
Some of us listen.
Elizabeth
and then some of us
listens.
make the other people do it.
Yeah, that's right. Elizabeth listens, and eventually I get my stuff together. So, anyway, so Turley is an amazing Zinfandel producer. They do most of what they produce is single vineyard. The Juvenile Zin is not just like, oh, it's younger vines. Obviously, I think everyone here knows Juvenile, but or maybe it's because I'm juvenile. But so anyway, so these are not just the younger vines. These actually are the replantings within all of their high-end single vineyards. So what's kind of cool is you're getting basically a cuvee of all of the replantings in their single vineyards. So it's not just young vines over in one vineyard, it's all their best vineyards and a little bit of it blended together. So for a young vine Zinfandel, it is amazing. And then the other side of it too, which is great, is you suddenly go from $65 a bottle down to $28 a bottle. And it's a great wine. It's a great wine maker to learn about. And that's what we're going to be working on for next week. Hopefully it's going to show up. So the most amazing, like if you were to take this wine and take it to a barbecue, because it's amazing for barbecue, you'd be like the most boss barbecue person ever. It's like, I brought Turley, woohoo! Spicy Italian sausage, because you got some fruitiness, but a really spicy combo. This wine is made for restaurants, and most people can't sell it, but because we serve wine in the store at Tipples, we count close enough to a restaurant to be able to buy some of this wine. So next week, that should be what we are doing, unless the distributor COVID-19's me out of my product. And something else.
I'm going to ask you a question about the spicy Italian sausage. So, because when I make lasagna, I don't just make it with ground beef, I make it with spicy Italian sausage too. So would that pair well with this or
Yes.
not?
Yeah, I would totally go with that with lasagna.
Okay.
In fact, that's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
We will pick some up for the tasting next week.
Turleys are so great. I love it when I get them. And I can't get them all the time.
Yeah.
But right now, because all the restaurants were closed, I'm getting much more than I normally do.
Yeah.
I normally get about 2 cases a year.
Wow.
Just buy it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm on it.
Unfortunately, it opened Monday, but you know.
Yeah, we'll see if it continues. And I lost all of my sales reps are gone now because
Why?
they've all been furloughed because my sales reps are the restaurant sales reps, and they've just folded those into the retail guys, and the retail guys don't know the accounts as much. But Tipples has been deemed one of the most important accounts in the state of Florida. So I actually have the state of Florida business sales manager in charge of our account. So I think it'll work out.
Yeah.
And by the way, just saying, one of the most important accounts in Florida. I don't know. Just saying.
Right.
Recording, so if everybody will give a cheers, and then we can stay here, but we'll stop recording.
Get it.
Cheers!
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Tasting good and bad.
Yeah, here, we can